Salutations, everybody. We have a special treat. We have a legend gracing us with his presence. The great JT the Brick, man. I appreciate you for pulling up, man. Thank you. I didn't want to start the pod this abruptly, but StreamYard is tripping. And while you have audio, I want to make sure, we get you on, man. How are you today, man?
I couldn't be better, man. Thanks for having me. This is a treat for me. I just finished my show on Raider Nation Radio today, and great to rock on this. Really looking forward to it.
Man, yeah, man. I mean, it's funny. Like, half of the time, this has nothing to do with the Raiders, but almost every time you talk about the Knicks or the New York Yankees, because I'm from New Jersey, so I'm a New York Knicks fan. I am a Yankee fan, diehard Raider fan, and your sentiments are almost identical to mine. The Mike Brown stuff, the Yankee stuff. So I want to get into that a little bit later, man. But I wanted to ask you, man. I mean, with the season coming up, all of the things that have happened this offseason, this is, to me, one of the best off seasons since I've been a fan. I've been a fan since the early 80s that I've seen. I mean, how excited are you going into this season with Pete Carroll and Spy Tech and Chip Kelly and everything that's been done here, man? How happy are you and how excited are you about the team coming up?
I'm really excited. It's been a rough road. I mean, the last couple of years, this time of year, I'm normally really excited. After there's a new regime and a new coach comes in and I'm on the front lines and you meet the coaches and you meet the new GM and you're excited because they come in with a plan, and the plan is usually pretty rock solid on what they want to do and how they want to win. And Antonio Pierce last year was unbelievable to be around. He was great to me. I interviewed him every week, and the guy fought valiantly to keep his job, and the Raiders lost 10 in a row. And it was hard. I mean, I'm in the building most of the week and interviewing these people, and you can see it. You can see it in their face, and it was hard. It was a really tough year. And then they do a complete reset and bring in John Spytek and bring in Pete Carroll, who is a legend, Chip Kelly. And with everything they got going now, they really look like they're on the right path. But I've said that in the past. And people that are watching probably say, well, JT said that when McDaniels came in. Yeah, I said it when Gruden came in. Because when they come in, they want to win. They have a plan. They go draft the players they think they need. But the big issue has been the quarterback. Finally now, because Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell, Aiden's going to be good in this league. But Geno Smith gives the Raiders a chance to hit the ground running right out of the gate in New England. And home opener against the Chargers, you got a very good quarterback who can win the game if he's trailing or extend the lead if he's winning, and that's what I'm most excited about.
No, that's 100% the same sentiment that I have, as far as, from the quarterback position. That's the most important position in football. And it can't be missed on me. The approach of this regime is the difference for me and my level of excitement. I think sometimes when you get a new regime, and that's not to disrespect anyone who was here previously, right? Sometimes you get people who want to get their guys in. And they don't take an accurate assessment of what we have that actually should stay. And we start throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I love the approach of John Spytek and Pete Carroll coming in, taking an assessment of what we have on the roster, going and drafting, BPA at some positions and going out there and really drafting for our division in a sense and just drafting for need on this team. And I love the way they came in. They made sure they locked in the most important piece in Max Crosby. And they went from there. And I think that's the difference in what we got here today. I mean, another thing that I noticed from the draft class is that they drafted kids who played a lot of snaps in college. Mm-hmm. So what that shows me is that they're going to lean heavily on this rookie class. I mean, has there been a rookie that you've seen that has really impressed you besides like the run-of-the-mill guys like Ashton Jeanty? Of course, he's a phenomenal kid. But has there been anybody that's impressed you that we wouldn't be thinking of?
Yeah, it's Deontay Jordan, the wide receiver, the 6'5" wide receiver out of Tennessee. He's just a freak. I've seen a lot of players come and go. This guy just looks different. And Jack Besh, the Jack story is pretty heavy, right? His brother was killed on New Year's Day, part of the terrorist attack. Imagine what you'd be going through, or I'd be going through, if that happened to us, or if that happened to anybody we knew. And this kid is thrown into the cycle of getting drafted and getting picked up by a team and going to rookie OTAs and minicamp. And he hasn't missed a beat. I mean, this kid is legit, and he is strong, and he's like Hunter Renfrow on steroids. I mean, you like Hunter Renfrow, which I did, and it's unfortunate the way it ended with him. This kid can play really the same position, but be more of a physical presence. And then I like what they're doing overall, because I think that this is a team that had to find a way to upgrade the offensive line. They upgraded with 2 offensive linemen who are clearly going to be depth pieces. And the Raiders' offensive line is going to have to be chosen in the preseason. And other than Colton Miller, Jackson Powers-Johnson, everybody else is competing. DJ Glaze is going to have an opportunity to win the right tackle spot. But with Thayer Mumford, the new players that they brought in, there's going to be some fierce competition. And the one thing I'm going to share with your audience is this competition Pete stuff is no joke. I mean, this is next level. I've been talking, one of the things I've been trying to do is interview people that work for the Seahawks or have been around the Seahawks the last decade. And what they were doing at practice is so much different than any team in the NFL was doing with their competition Wednesdays and what they were doing on their off days and off season. So Pete's installing that now. And I think that's going to change everything, including players like Max Crosby, who's going to have better coaching this time of year, because not because the other coaches weren't good, just Pete Carroll's that much better.
Yeah. He's to me, one of the deans of the National Football League as far as a coach goes. You know, the one thing that I noticed about the AFC West, and we all noticed, it's almost like a master class in coaches. I mean, everybody has jewelry. I mean, from the college ranks, you know, all of these guys are Hall of Fame level coaches to a point. You know, Sean Payton, Pete Carroll, you know, Andy Reid's probably the best coach in the National Football League, one of the best coaches ever, and also, you know, Jim Harbaugh. And we needed, you know, to me, when there were rumors about, you know, Ben Johnson, and there were rumors about Liam Cohen and stuff, I was a little concerned about a first-time head coach coming into a situation like that. You know, now I don't ever feel like the Raiders have just like a gap in experience, right? You know, and that was one of the issues with Antonio Pierce, that I loved Antonio Pierce and I really wanted him to succeed. But one of the things that was always concerning to me was the fact that he had to kind of learn the job on the fly, because he had never been a head coach at any level, and to have to go up against an Andy Reid. And he beat him. But, you know, more often than not, that experience is going to win out. And that's one thing that I'm super excited about. Like, we definitely have a guy that is not a novice, that head coach, and Chip Kelly coming in. I mean, my God, bringing in all of the innovation that he brought from college. I'm super, super excited about that. JT, I wanted to ask you, really, you know, all of your years being, you know, the voice of the Raiders and all teams you've been around. I was watching your show yesterday and I was at work and I didn't get a chance to chime in. I wanted to bring up what you were talking about the most impactful Raider. You were talking about Seabass, man. I really, I was like, man, if we rock out tomorrow, I got to talk about that with him, man. That was, I love your reasoning behind Sebastian Janikowski and the most impactful Raider over the years since you've been around.
Yeah, what I'm doing is this summer, because in the summertime you need programming and it gets sideways in the summer. This is the time of year where there's nothing. The All-Star game in baseball was pretty unique the way it ended, but we're looking for content, and I don't like to do bad Raider content. Like, I'm not the guy who's going to do 2 hours on the backup safety. I don't do that. If you make the team and you're the backup safety, I'll talk about you all day. So this time of year, I look for topics. So I decided this summer, we're going to talk about the most impactful Raider draft picks of all time. Well, what do I mean by impactful? Where were they drafted? Were they drafted late? Like Reggie Kinlaw and Rod Martin were both drafted in the 12th round. Yeah. They both won 2 Super Bowls. They're going to make it into my top 10 because of their impactful. Now, Jim Plunkett, Mike Haynes were not drafted by the Raiders. So they're out. They're not involved with the conversation. Yeah. When I got to Seabass, he was impactful because he kicked in a Super Bowl. He's the all-time Raider leading scorer. He was taken in the first round, which is really unique. And he was just the ultimate Raider. He could have played in any era. He could have played in the 60s, Could have played with Blanda in the 60s and 70s. He would have been the Raiders starting kicker in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s when he was. And he was just a really good guy and a guy who loved the organization and played a long time. I think it was 16 years.
Yes,
So he definitely made the list. He's not in my top 10, but it was fun talking about him yesterday.
Yeah, it definitely was. I mean, for me, in my time, I'm in my late 40s, right? So for me, it's Charles Woodson, right? Like that's my number one guy. Charles Woodson and Marcus Allen, of course, right? But Charles Woodson coming back to the Raiders, that did it for me. And even his time initially when his first one with the Raiders, but him coming back kind of solidified, his impact for me with this organization. And I like a guy like that was on a Hall of Fame trajectory, winning the Super Bowl in Green Bay. I really wish he would have won one here. Him coming back here and showing his love for this organization was something that landed on me and this fan base in a different way. And Charles Woodson, for me, it's him, Tim Brown, Marcus Allen for me at my top. You know what I mean? But, that's a great premise, man, to get into, because when you look at this offseason, a lot of times there's a lot of controversy around the Raiders. There's a lot of nonsense that goes on in the offseason. This has been one of the most harmonious, great offseason. Unilaterally, people in Raider Nation are all happy. There hasn't really been much controversy. And that's a good thing. It's not a great thing for content, though. It really isn't. But look, I wanted to also get into, your journey a little bit. You're being an East Coast guy, starting out as a stockbroker and the way you came to be. I don't know if a lot of people understand that you won a contest back in the day on Jim Rohn's platform, and you hit the ground running, man, and you left a really lucrative career to do something that you love, man. I mean, could you get into, how that kind of changed you, man? Because that's an amazing story, man.
Yeah, it changed everything for me. I grew up in Long Island, New York, Massapequa. I went to college in upstate New York, Geneseo State, a SUNY school. And then I became a stockbroker. And if you saw the movie Boiler Room, not Wolf of Wall Street, Boiler Room, that movie was about the crew that I worked with, the exact crew. And it really was part of my life. Yeah, that was the movie. Yeah. There was in that movie, they threw in a love interest, a girl, like a love scene, they had to. But the hardcore stuff that you watch about stockbrokering and cold calling, that was me. And I did that for a number of years, and then I kind of got burnt out on it, and I moved out west. Still remained a stockbroker. And at that time, I started listening to sports radio. I didn't really listen to a lot of sports radio back east. And when I got out west, I started listening to a station out there, the Mighty 690, and they had a couple of hosts, and one was Jim Rohn. And then he hit big, and he hit with syndication. And then he came up with a contest, and he said, I'm going to invite my best callers to call in one day, one call only. And he pitted like 20 of us, and we're all really good callers. We're all lunatics on the phones. I felt like I had an advantage because I was a stockbroker. I was only calling in on the Knicks. That's how I got the name JT the Brick, because it rhymed with Knicks.
Yeah.
And I entered that contest that day and won it. And if I didn't win it, I wouldn't be talking to you today. I would have never been hired by the Raiders. And I had to make a big decision on what I was going to do. And I asked my dad. My dad said, I have your back. So I left a 6-figure job for like 25 grand to move to Vegas and do overnight radio. And I was doing that for a short period of time. And the GM at the time of the team, Bruce Allen, heard me in the middle of the night. And he said, who's this guy taking all these calls from the Raider fans? And he's like, just hire him. And he happened to know someone who knew me. And in 98, that was the year that Charles Woodson was drafted. And I got hired the same day John Gruden was hired the first time. I took over the Raiders pre- and post-game show in 1998. And the rest is history, man. I'm coming up on my 28th season. I'm still doing the pre and post and the coaches show and all that. And, I had to make a big decision. The big part of my arc with the Raiders is I grew up a Giant fan in New York.
Yeah.
But I liked the Raiders, and I was a big Stabler fan. And when I got out west, I went to the black hole and I said, look, this ain't going to work unless you guys accept me. And they basically said, yeah, if you don't screw us over and you treat us good, we'll have your back, because the black hole didn't have a voice on the radio. No Raider fan had a voice on the radio. Even if you were in the LA days, there was no show that Raider fans were calling into. So then I started talking up the black hole. They started talking me up. And then I started showing up, working the games. And then the Raiders brought me in, and I've been a part of the family ever since.
Man, it's amazing. And listen, just because you start out a fan of a team, right? When you get invested and you pour the kind of time and blood, sweat, and tears you do into our fan base, you're a Raider, 100%. You know what I mean? And it's funny, man, that you didn't listen to the Sports Talk Radio back east, because that's kind of like my journey. I've always been like a big fan of Sports Talk Radio. Working, listening to Mike and the Mad Dog, the Sports Pope. You know what I mean? They kind of raised me in a sense. Like sports radio back east. You know how it is, man. It's like it's back in the 80s and the 90s. That's kind of where it was kind of born in a sense, right? So like I was always a big fan of them. And get into the Knicks really quickly, because look, there's a bunch of Raider fans here, but they always break my chops about my Knicks and my Yankees. And now I don't care, because now I got somebody that's a Knick and a Yankee fan too. So here we go talk about.
I just got back. I just got back from Yankee Stadium last week. I went to the game where Bellinger hit 3 home runs. He should have hit 4. They robbed him going over the wall. I saw Judge have one of the best games he's ever had defensively. So, I've been a diehard Yankee fan from the day I was born. The day I was born in the hospital, my dad put a Yankee cap on me. The Knicks is my life. And I've been through Yankee World Series, got all those rings. I love throwing it in everyone's face, especially those Dodger fans. They're like, well, we won the last one. Look, the Yankees got 27. And for those who say, well, most of them were in the 50s, 60s, too bad. We don't get rid of history because you don't like history. We don't erase World War II because we won World War II. No, we keep the history. And the Yankees have that history. And they lost to the Dodgers last year. And I was at game 1 when Freeman hit the grand slam. It killed me. But the Knicks, that's where we have the connection. And, I'm about to turn 60. I'm 59. And the Knicks won their only 2 championships in the early 70s. Yeah. I don't remember that well, obviously, as a young boy. But we got close this last year. I thought we were better than Indiana. This year, we're going to be better than Indiana with no Halliburton, no Jason Tatum up in Boston. And the Knicks did a pretty good job signing a couple of players. So when the Knicks win a title, for me, the Raiders, I've been with the Raiders going to a Super Bowl and lose, and the Raiders are going to win a Super Bowl in the next 4 to 5 years. But if the Knicks can win, that will be the moment for me, because, man, I put a lot of years in like you did, watching the finger roll miss, Charles Smith, Stark shooting us out of a championship, and I feel like the Knicks are on the doorstep again.
I'm going to be honest with you. I shouldn't even say this on the air, but my wife was running. Justin Tuck had this charity called the Tuck Rush to Literacy, and my wife is a teacher. She's involved with it, and he would always have a charity billiards tournament to fund the charity and Slate in New York City, and John Starks was there. And I used to love John Starks until he shot us out of the finals. And I can't listen, man. After that, I couldn't stand him. So he was because John Starks he plays billiards. And my wife goes over to him. She goes, oh my God, my husband's a diehard Knick fan. Oh, I want you to take a picture with him. And when he came over, I wouldn't take a picture with him.
I wouldn't go that far. I mean, I love Starks. He had a bad game, but you're holding a grudge, my brother.
Man, listen, I'll never forget that, because that was the day of the OJ chase.
Yeah.
That was the day of the OJ chase. And I will never, ever forget that. I could never figure out why Pat Riley wouldn't just sit him down and put Hubert Davis in. I mean, somebody, man. I could not understand. What is it, 0 for 9 from 3? It's ridiculous, man. We had game 6 at home against, we could have wrapped it up in the Garden, man. Oh my God. I'll never get over that. I'm sorry. I'll never get over that.
That was tough. And I understand your pain, because I lived it. And, you look after that, and we had the Spreewell years and Larry Johnson, and, there were a couple of good years there, but that year with Ewing and Starks, and we had a really good chance to get it done. And then a lot of the audience doesn't realize that's the number 1 media market. That's a great franchise. That's the Mecca. And we've gone like geez, we're talking 50 years almost.
Yes.
We're talking 40, 50 years. You always got to be in the hunt, but it's been cold years for Knicks fans. But I think the Knicks are going to have a chance. I'm actually going to go see them tomorrow. I do my show from Summer League a couple of days.
Okay,
so I'm going to go sit behind the bench and watch them play here. But, back to the Raiders for a second, as you were diving into, Pete Carroll and Spytech. This Christian Wilkins thing is going to be big. We got to get him healthy. I have no news here. I have no idea where he's at. None. But whatever injury he has, it should have healed by now, and hopefully it will heal wherever it is. If this team's got Wilkins, Adam Butler, Malcolm Kuntz, I think Tyree Wilson's going to play better. Max is going to have a monster year. And then the linebackers we brought in, and Devin White, he can play. I think the Raiders are going to be sneaky good and better on defense, and we both know they're going to be much better on offense with Geno and Genti. Yeah,
no, definitely. I see the one thing about the Christian Wilkins situation is I knew this was going to be an issue because when you have a big man with a foot injury, you're playing with house money if it's going to heal. Now, a Jones fracture, I know Derrick Henry had the same injury. It went great for him, but it's one of those injuries where if it doesn't go well, you're going to have an extended amount of time. He's a screw in his foot. I don't know what's going on either, but apparently, if he got hurt in week 4 or 5, it should have been healed already. So they probably had to go back in and do something else. I kind of think that the Raiders drafting Tonka Hemingway and JJ Pegues kind of let us know that there was an issue with Christian Wilkins, right? You signed Adam Butler, and then I'm looking at it from this prism too. Tyree Wilson has always reminded me of Justin Tuck as far as him being a big, rangy defensive end. A guy that's not. He doesn't have a tremendous amount of bend, but he has a tremendous bull rush. He's a genetic freak, big guy. I can see them taking Tyree Wilson and playing him inside a lot of the times with Kuntz, with Max Crosby. You know what I mean? He has the body type. He has good pad level. I can see Tyree Wilkins being a guy that is a major contributor if Christian Wilkins is not there to take some of those snaps.
That's a really good point you're making because he's going to have limited opportunity to come off the edge because Max isn't coming off the field, and Kuntz should have a big year, and I don't see him coming off the field on third down. So if you slide him into some type of NASCAR package or a 5-man rush technique up front with 2 linebackers, his bull rush has got to be good. I mean, when the kid was drafted number 7 overall injured, that was a mistake. He was drafted too high. It was a mistake. And Dave Ziegler, I liked a lot. I thought, and Tom Telesco, I thought these guys made some good picks. But that was a bad pick unless he explodes this year. He's got to have, I described it the other day, on a scale of 1 to 10, I think he's playing at a 3 or a 4. If he can go from a 3 or a 4 to an 8, say he just has that moment where he wakes up this year and he is kicking ass, because you nailed it. He's a generic freak. He doesn't have an ounce of body fat. When I first saw him, I'm going to share this story. I walked in the building and he was there. I thought he was Kevin Durant, but about 100 pounds lighter, right? Yeah, it's 100 pounds heavier. He looked like Kevin Durant. His arm,
like his wingspan is insane, right? It's like a condor.
Like a condor. And then
like Max, right?
when he played in the first preseason games, or after he was hurt and he came back and he started playing, it was scary to see him not understand the snap count. I mean, he was a half a second off the play. It was like, wait a second. I saw the film of him playing in college. He was not late to the snap count. He was off the ball pretty quick. And it was like he forgot how to play football. And now they coached him up and they fixed him. And he's got to be good because he's getting coached by Pete Carroll, Patrick Graham, Rob Leonard. Let me repeat this. Rob Leonard. I think Rob Leonard's going to be a head coach within 2 years. Patrick Graham was a finalist for Jacksonville. So next year, there's always 7 coaches that get hired and fired. I think that next year, Patrick Graham will become a head coach. And then Rob Leonard, who's really hot, he'll be a head coach in 2 years. All of these guys with Pete Carroll are coaching Tyree Wilson. They got to get a lot out of him. We don't have time to wait. We don't have time to wait for Tyree Wilson's development. Adam Butler didn't make us wait. Malcolm Kuntz didn't make us wait when he had a chance. Tyree Wilson has got to be great this year. And I'm encouraged in our conversation. You said it best. His bull rush and moving him inside, he's going to be single covered if he comes in on the inside. He can push around some guards and a center. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, right?
Yeah.
So that's the best kind of pressure you can get. And to be honest with you, when I look at Tyree Wilson, I look at a guy that really, I look at his rookie season as almost like a red shirt year because of the fact that he was injured. He didn't have a full offseason. And then, he had some issues last season, right? But this is really his first time having a full productive offseason. Right. So for me, I'm expecting the moon from him. And this is a situation where the Raiders are going to have to decide whether or not they're going to be in the Tyree Wilson business going forward. This is the year for him. So if there's any kind of a player in there, it will come out this year. There's no excuses. You got a healthy Max. You got a healthy Malcolm Kuntz. You've had a full offseason program. You understand what's going on. There's no more learning curve with the speed of the game and any of this stuff. And when I look at him, he's not a guy where there's a shortage of effort, right? Like most of the time, there's not a whole lot separating most NFL players from one another. You have the Hall of Famers, the guys like Mark Zahn. These guys are immortals. They're a little different, right? Ed Reed, those kind of guys. But most NFL players, a lot of the dereliction between how good they are and how they aren't is how they study, their practice habits, how they treat themselves, and how hard they work. Like hard work is everything, man. And that's a testament to you, right? Look at the way you've worked in your career to get to where you are. There are a lot of other people who could probably have done, or got the opportunity you got and not have gotten the same level of success because they didn't work and grind and, stay active. And that's really what it's about. And what I see from Tyree Wilson is a hard worker. I don't see a guy where I hear rumors that he's not doing what he's supposed to do. So I think he's going to be successful. I have a lot of faith in him. And I have a lot of faith in his defensive line. I think this defensive line is the most complete and most talented group on this team. I wanted to ask you about the secondary, though. Like we talked about the linebacker group. I'm excited about that. I'm excited about Atlanta Roberts. I'm excited about Pratt. I'm excited about Devin White. I think Devin White is going to have a resurgence playing here with the Raiders. He's probably going to play will linebacker. You're not going to really need him to be the Mike. And I'm very excited for Tommy Eichenberg as well, right? Amari Gaynor, all these guys. I think this group is going to be a lot better than people think. But the secondary, I know that we brought in Chin, Lonnie Johnson, all of these guys. Are you worried a little bit about the lack of experience in that group?
Yeah, sure I am. And that worrisome has kind of gone away a little bit after spending some time with Darian Porter, who's another freak. The guy walks by you again. I'll use the NBA. And now he looks like an NBA player. He doesn't look like a football player. He's tall. He's long. He's the perfect Pete Carroll player. I will never compare him to Richard Sherman because Richard Sherman was great, but he was brought in to be a young Richard Sherman. So you got a player in Porter who's supposed to be good. I'll believe it when I see it with Jacorian Bennett. I think that him getting banged up last year hurt his development, but he's a freak-looking athlete. You look at Eric Stokes, they like his style of play and his look. Looks like the other guys, tall, lanky, long on that end. But I wouldn't be surprised if they signed another corner. And I'm not predicting who it's going to be, but what I've been calling for is that hopefully when cutdowns happen around the league, he will be a player that there'll be a player on another team who's good, who just gets beat. He loses his job because a rookie or a second-year player outplays him. And that player, the team will want to let go and the team will want to cut. And if that happens, then we'll be talking about the Raiders instantly signing a starter who can jump in and play. If they don't do that, then we're going to be talking about developing that secondary. And if you look at who they're going to start on either side, I'm a little bit concerned about that because Justin Herbert, Drake May, right out of the gate, and Jaden Daniels are going to be attacking our corners. And I think with Chin and Isaiah Palomal, who I like a lot, but he's not very experienced. He's better in the box. Quarterbacks are going to be licking their chops going, we can attack the Raiders. We can go downfield. We don't want to run against them. Let's throw on them. And that's where our defensive line is going to say, oh, yeah? You want to go after our young bucks? You want to go after them? Well, we're going to come after you. And then I think Patrick Graham and Pete Carroll are going to have these exotic blitz packages and are going to try to help the secondary by blitzing more. I can't wait for that.
I can't. I mean, when you dial up pressure, you make an average secondary look like a great secondary, right? And I'm not saying that we're an average secondary. I have a lot of faith. I've seen Pete Carroll do this not just with Richard Sherman, but I've seen him do this with Tariq Woolen as well. Mm-hmm. Taking a young guy, a young, talented, big, rangy corner, and turning him and him coming out and having a career year. Sherm did the same thing in Seattle, and so did Tariq Woolen. And Pete Carroll kind of has an archetype for the way his guys are. And also a guy that, a lot of people aren't mentioning, DeCameron Richardson. DeCameron Richardson's another big, physical, young corner. I mean, last year he had a rough year, but I would love to see his development. But, like when I look out there and I look at some of the guys on the scrap heap, I can't help but to think that maybe John Spytek has something in mind. He's cooking up something. There's somebody he has his eye on. Or maybe bringing in a guy like Stephon Gilmore. A guy that has had his better days behind him, but still has a lot to offer. I think that's really the thing that's missing, is having that vet that you can lean on, right? A guy that has a lot of experience, that's had success at a high level to kind of develop the physical attributes of the young guys that we got in the building. So hopefully, just like you said, towards the end of the season, they start trying to motion to bring somebody in. I wanted to kind of get into, the division and where you see this roster just on paper, because it's hard to tell, right? It's just conjecture at this point. How far do you think the Raiders are from being at the top of the heap in this division? Because look, the Rams, but the Chargers have a very talented roster. I would say on paper, they might have the most talented roster besides them in Kansas City, right? But I'm going to be honest with you. I think we are starting, barring a little depth, we are starting to get into that realm if everything goes the way we think it can go. You know what I mean? Especially I think we have the most talented defensive line in the division. But with Geno Smith and all of these guys at wide receiver, and there's a lot of ifs there, JT. I know there's a lot of ifs there. There's a lot of hopium there. But if these guys can kind of round into the players that we see, we got a pretty damn talented roster here, man.
I agree. I think it's a really good point you're bringing up. How far is the roster away? Well, we dove into the weaknesses of the secondary. It's not all a strength. The linebacking core, which I think could be okay, it's got to get younger at some point. It's got to, in the next year or two, they got to get a unique, great young linebacker. So that Spytek will find that. He'll find that. Good with the defensive line, pretty good with the offensive line. We're loaded with Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers. A number one wide receiver. I don't think we're going to go down that route anymore. I don't think the Raiders are going to be in the market for a Terry McLaurin or someone like that. I think the Raiders are going to sit with what they have. We got the best punter or one of the top two punters. We got a really good kicker. So check off special teams. The roster is not that far away unless the offensive line doesn't take the next step. Because if Dylan Parham doesn't play well, and you look at Alex Kappa, who can play, and you're looking at Meredith inside and some of the other guys, unless one or two of them really pop to help out Colton Miller and JPJ, Jackson Powers Johnson is going to be a superstar in this league. I think he's going to be a 6,
All-Pro.
7, 8-time Pro Bowler and All-Pro. And DJ Glaze, he's a good player. He's really oversized, strong, a good guy. But I think the roster is 1 year away because they drafted so well. If they didn't draft as well as they did in this most recent draft, I'd be nervous. Then I'd say, well, we need another year of free agency and another draft class. No, I think next off season, and we're going to do good this year, Spytek will be just hole hunting where he'll say, I got a hole there. I got one there. I'd like to take the best player, but no, I'm going to take the best player at a certain position, and the Raiders, their roster will be locked in. And then they'll have one of the top 10 rosters, I think, in all of football. They're not as far away as the detractors say.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times, there's and I don't mean to be the crazy Raider fan here, right? Mm-hmm. But there is a definite Raider bias in the national media, right? And I think that goes back to Al Davis, right? And I think there was a narrative out there, and I don't want to, but I've always felt like people are a lot harsher on the Raiders than other teams, right? I think there's a sight blindness. There's very few people in the national media. Like Rich Eisen is a guy that always kind of supports the Raiders and supports.
He does.
I got to give him his respect, right? But there are a lot of people, I think they kind of go a little too hard on the Raiders, right? And if I'm being honest, right? Like this team has had 2 excellent drafts back to back, and people act like the Raiders are devoid of talent. Like you have a situation where, listen, you can say what you want about Tom Telesco. Coupon Tom absolutely cooked drafting Brock Bowers and drafting Jackson Powers Johnson. I mean, and then look, DJ Glaze and all of these guys that are coming in. These are guys that, if and let's pray they're all pros one day. But if you draft a starter in the 4th or the 5th round, that means that you have absolutely rocked your draft. And I think DJ Glaze is a definite starter. And I don't worry as much about Dylan Parham as other people do. I think Dylan Parham is a guy that I think he gets a little too much kind of criticism, right? I think he's a young player. He grades out pretty well, and he was in some bad situations early in his career. I mean, if you get dominated by Chris Jones, that's a guy that's going to walk into the Hall of Fame. That happens, right? I think when you have people like Jackson Powers Johnson next to you, when you got a DJ Glaze next to you, it's a little different. I think that there are going to be times where Jackson Powers Johnson is going to be able to just deal with that nose tackle by himself. That was something that was missing. No disrespect to Andre James, but that was something that was missing. Andre James was a great center when he didn't have to go up against that upper crust of defensive tackle.
Good point. Sure.
When he went up against those kind of guys, he needed a lot of help, and it kind of exposed other guys on the line. I think this Raider offensive line, barring like a little depth, I think this line is set up to be successful. I don't think we have the hogs or anything here, but I think that having Colton Miller is a top 12 guy at his position in the league. I think JPJ is going to be a top 3 or 4 guy maybe top 2 guy in his position. And I think that DJ Glaze is a definite starter. I think we're going to be fine, man. And Alex Kappa played well in that Super Bowl year with Tampa Bay when he had people around him. You had Tristan Wirfs and guys like that around him. He played better. I think in Cincinnati, there's a problem with that offensive line, and it made him look worse than he actually was.
Yeah, everything you're saying, I agree with. The roster's better than people give it credit for. In regards to the Raiders detractors, I spent a lot of time last year defending the Raiders in the preseason, and I got my head lopped off. I was saying what I'm saying to you. Raiders are better than you think. Their roster's pretty good, and I was wrong. It wasn't good. I was at training camp in Costa Mesa. The offense was a disaster. They couldn't run a play. Max Crosby blew up every single play. Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew didn't play well. Jackson Powers Johnson was unavailable along with Colton Miller the entire training camp, all of training camp. That didn't help. Zamir White, who we haven't talked about, he had a big chance. He wasn't ready for the next step. Unfortunate. I don't blame it all on him. I think the offensive line wasn't very good. But now, the depth on the offensive line, I'm really bullish on. The depth of the running back position with Raheem Mostert. How do you think he's going to feel when he's only getting 6 or 7 carries a game? Because Gentry's getting 25 or 22 or 19. Mostert's going to come in ready to just be a heat-seeking missile and looking to stay on the field. And then Bowers and Michael Mayer. Michael Mayer, everyone expects him to be trade bait. I don't see it that way. And if Thornton and Besh can really pop, if one of those 2 guys have a big year, before we wrap this up, I want you to think of this offense coming out of the huddle. Game 1, we're at New England. We get the ball on the 30. It's our first drive. You're going to break the huddle with Geno and Ashton Genty. Single back set. You're going to go Jacoby out to the left. You're going to have Besh in the slot. You're going to go with either Trey Tucker or Jordan in the other slot. And then you go far wide. And the questions are going to be amazing about who's going to be the deep threat, because there's a couple of them now. You got a young player out of Tennessee, and you got Trey Tucker. But you're going to have Bowers, who's going to line up in the slot. He's not going to line up at tight end all the time. He's going to line up in the slot. So you're going to have 2 slot receivers, a wide receiver out wide and a wide receiver out wide the other way. Ashton Genty by himself, doesn't need a bleeping fullback, doesn't need a blocker. Michael Mayer coming in to block if he's going to do that. And then Geno is going to break the huddle, looking at the defense, recognizing it. Chip Kelly's going to put him into 2 or 3 different plays. And he's going to say, Geno, go with the one you like. And what a difference that's going to make. I mean, no disrespect to Norv Turner and Scott Turner and some of the other guys we've had here, but this offense is going to dictate what they want to do. And I've been preaching this. It's going to be 3rd and 4. And everybody's going to think pass. No, we're going to give the ball to Genty. Genty's going to get us 6 yards or 5 yards because we're going to spread everybody out. And then we're going to have a fresh set of downs in New England. Now it's going to be 1st down at the 50. And Gino's going to have time. And he's going to do it again and again. And we're not going to go 3 and out. We're not going 3 and out like we did last year. We're going to get a 3. We're going to get 6. We're going to get 6. We're going to get 3. And then we're going to let Max and the defense pin their ears back. But I've been saying this. They got to back it up. They got to back it up on the field. And Pete Carroll ain't effing around. He wants to win now. This is not a retirement plan for him. He's not here for 3 years and year 3 for this to be good. Then he'll turn it over to his son. None of that bullshit. What he's here to do is win now. I don't expect him to go to the Super Bowl in year 1, but I expect him to be on the verge of the playoffs quickly.
I do too. And to be honest with you, everything you said kind of reminds me, and I hate to do this because we do this a lot at Raider Nation. It reminds me of the early 2000s. It reminds me of having Charlie Gardner here, Napoleon Kaufman, all these guys, because when you have that many options, you have that many people that need to be accounted for on the offensive side of the football, it makes it hell for a defense. And when you have a trigger man, he doesn't have to be Dan Marino. He doesn't have to be Tom Brady. He doesn't have to be Peyton Manning. All he has to do is be a guy that can deliver the football down the field, make the right calls, write the right checks, stand in the pocket, and just run the offense. You have Dante Thornton. You have Besh under the middle, and then you have a guy in Jacoby Myers that is. People talk about the number 1 receiver, right? Well, we don't have a guy that we're paying as a quote unquote number 1 receiver. We have a guy that gives you number 1 receiver production. Ever since Devontae Adams has left, Jacoby Myers absolutely lit it on fire last year. And it's not just in his slot. He did it lined up outside. He'll give it to you however you need it. And just from all of the guys, having a guy like Brock Bowers, which they call him a tight end, I just call him a weapon, right? He is a guy that can line up all over the field. I think this Raider offense, if guys play to the back of their baseball card, so to speak, is going to give people hell. It's going to give people hell. I am bullish. And I'm going to tell you one reason for me why I feel like the Raiders didn't follow through on what we saw last year when because I got to be a glass half full guy too, right? Sure. I feel like a lot of what happened was I think that they got indecisive about who was going to be under center, and they put their eggs in the wrong basket. And I feel like had they started Aiden O'Connell from the beginning and put all of the organization's faith behind Aiden O'Connell and never waver from that, I feel like they would have been prepared a little differently. I think they would have, kept Devontae Adams kind of tuned in a little more than he was towards the end. And I think that was really, and then, we didn't have the best luck with injuries last year either, right?
No.
So sometimes you get the bear, sometimes the bear gives you. The bear got us last year. I think that has a lot to do with it. And then also when you have a coach that and the GM that are not kind of brought in together on the same page, it wasn't a cohesive kind of a unit. And that's just from me from the outside looking in. It looked like Tom Telesco had his own plan to how he saw this organization going and what he wanted to do. And that didn't line up with what Antonio Pierce was trying to do. Antonio Pierce was trying to win now and put all his chips on the table and go as far as he possibly could. And it looked like Tom Telesco was trying to build a foundation for the future. So when you have people I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's unbelievable. No, you keep going. That's unbelievable analysis from you. You nailed it. I mean, what Tom Telesco was trying to do, he should have been there in his mind long term. And I think the Raiders got a great young GM in John Spytek. I'm really excited about him. But imagine what Tom Telesco was thinking, going, okay, I get to do this draft. I get to do things. And he put some foundation pieces around. Unfortunately, he didn't last because a massive sea of change happened. And Mark Davis wanted a dramatic change. And we didn't spend any time talking about Tom Brady. We'll do that on our next one.
Yes, sir.
On what Tom Brady's vision is going to be. But I got exciting news for you. So I wanted to let you know because this has been really cool. I want to have you on my show and my podcast because every year I add an insider or two into the show, and you're fantastic. I've never done anything with you. I've checked out what you've done. You're really good at what you do. So as we wrap this up, I'll have you on my show and podcast in the next couple of weeks. At some point during training camp, we'll do it again. And
Awesome.
we'll build this up, man, because I love your calmness, your tone, your knowledge, your experience, your passion for the Raiders. And I can use someone like you on my show. So I hope you'll accept the invite.
Listen, thank you. And I would love to definitely come on your platform, man. I appreciate you, man. Thank you for gracing us with your presence. It has been a tremendous show, man. And listen, guys, everybody, JT the Brick, you guys know the legend. You got to go down there to his YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit that button, hit that like button. I've been noticing you've been cooking a lot lately on all mediums, right? So, guys,
I'm
go
trying
down
to
there.
build this YouTube thing. This YouTube thing isn't easy. I did it just this year. My son turned me on to it. I'm trying to do it, and I'm kind of getting the numbers going. I want to really get this thing going by football season. So you're going to help me do that. I'm going to help you with yours, and let's put a calendar together in the next 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks,
Sure.
and we'll do this again, and you come on mine, and we'll introduce you to my audience because I think you're going to go places.
Well, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for pulling up, guys. This has been a terrific episode. We're going to get out of here, guys. Also, make sure you guys hit that like, hit that subscribe. We are out of here. We're gone, y'all. Hold on. And wait a minute. I don't want to do it because he cursed us in the World Series, but you guys know what I always say.
Yesterday's price is not today's price.
You guys have a terrific night, man. Peace.